Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about the filters of the mind. All of this that I'm about to tell you is pure NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, of which I am a trainer and a master practitioner. And it's fascinating stuff, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. So let's get into it. So there's three mini lessons within this webinar. So the first one is understanding your internal representation. What is it and how to make it work for you? So this is a picture of the NLP communication model. So it is not the most detailed picture, but it's a great place to start. And later on in the webinar, I'll show you another version. But this is a really nicely laid out NLP communication model. So let me explain it to you. So out here is there is reality, the external event, right? So there, external to us is the world and is reality and is events that are happening. And we take in the information from the world through our five senses, right? Touch, smell, sight, sound, and taste. And in reality is 2 million bits of information per second. And yet we can't absorb all 2 million bits per second. It's just too much information. So it comes in and we have to filter it. So we delete, distort, and generalize, break this information down into chunks of information, 5 to 9 chunks of information. Don't worry too much about that at the moment. But we filter the information through these filters. They are our meta programs, which is our personality, through our values, our beliefs, our decisions, and our memories. So due to all these past experiences that have happened to us, that have given us our values, given us our beliefs about the world and ourselves and people, decisions that we've made due to things that have happened to us in the past, and of course our memories, these create filters with which we filter the world. So the world comes in at 2 million bits a second. We can only process about 256 bits per second. Okay, neuroscience has come up with these numbers, not me. And after we've filtered the pure world, we're down to 256 bits of information. It creates our internal representation. So here's the world, pure reality, but we're not seeing that. It's coming in, we're filtering it. It's like, filtering water. Yeah, there's the water with all its impurities and everything, but not necessarily that our internal representation is somehow pure, but it's, I've lost my picture, but it's a purer version for us. And it resonates with us according to what we believe. So we create an internal representation. So the best way for me to explain what an internal representation is to do this example with you. So I'd like you to think of your favorite food or one of your favorite foods. Yeah, it doesn't matter which one, just think of one. So close your eyes. Do you have a picture of this food? Yes. Are there any sounds attached to it? Yes. Are there any feelings attached to it? So this package of picture, sounds, feelings, there might be tastes or smells. This is your internal representation of that food. So the food sits out here in reality. The food is out here, external to us, yes, and we make an internal representation of that food. Now, is that internal representation the whole food? No, it is just a representation of it. So, you know, to us, that food that you pictured, it's your favorite, so it tastes yummy to you. But to someone else, you know, that food might be something that they really don't like. Yes, it's just your internal representation. It's, you know, is it reality? Well, you know, is that food yummy, full stop? There are people who would say, no, it's not yummy. So your internal representation doesn't necessarily have to be the reality. It is just your belief, your thoughts, your pictures that you created. It might be that you love apple pie because when you were a kid, your mum made apple pie. And so whenever you think of apple pie, it makes you think of your mum and think of the kitchen and home and love. Yes. Or you might, you know, have never eaten apple pie or only ever bought like the real cheap store-bought one and can't understand what all the fuss is about apple pie. So your internal representation is individual to you based on your filters. Yes, based on these things. And that internal representation creates a state, an emotion. So if you were thinking of your favorite food, it might have created a positive state. Yes, you might have felt warm and fuzzy or just happy or a little bit excited thinking about your favorite food. And that state affects your physiology. So it could be that maybe your mouth started to water as you started to think of that favorite food, or maybe your tummy started to, you know, rumble, or maybe you just had a warm, glowy feeling when you're thinking of that food. And then the physiology leads us to take action. It's our behavior. So if we love that food, we might then go and eat it, or we might, next time we go out, go and buy it, or something like that. So does that make sense? So the world comes in, reality comes in pure and unedited at 2 million bits a second. We break it down and edit it according to our filters to create an internal representation, which is individual to us. That affects our emotions, that affects our physiology, and then that affects what actions we take according to that information. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is your internal representation. And I love that in NLP, it teaches us about an internal representation. Before I learned NLP, I'd never heard of such a thing. I never thought about such a thing. But I love how it's so beautifully articulated through the NLP communication model. So let's have a little play with your internal representation. So when you were a little kid, did you pretend play? Yeah, did you put on, you know, a cape and some swimming goggles and pretend you were a superhero? And did you get a cardboard roll and pretend you're looking through a telescope and sit in a box and think you're in a ship? And when you were playing in this way, was this cardboard roll just a cardboard roll, or was it a real telescope and you were looking at distant islands and treasure? And when you had, you know, the swimming goggles on or something similar, were they swimming goggles or was it the mask of Zorro? So when we're children and we're playing, we're right in there in our imagination and our internal representation. And so this innocence, this childlike imagination, I'd like you to have this for this exercise. So, are you ready? I'd like you to think of a time in your life when there was something you really, really wanted that you have got. So something you wanted it, you put a plan in place, you did whatever it took, and you finally got this wonderful thing. And I want you to think about this exciting, incredible feeling of getting something that you really, really wanted. So I'd like you just to close your eyes and think about that. And it can be something small, could be something when you were little, this toy that you wanted, or it could be a great achievement in your adult life or even in your school years. It doesn't matter. Just something that brings you a feeling of success and happiness. Good. So I want you to really go there. I want you to see that picture in your mind, that internal representation of you achieving this wonderful goal, whatever it is that you wanted. I want you to step into the picture and see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of this happiness and success. And notice there is a place in your body where you feel these wonderful feelings. So I'd like you to point to it now, physically point to the feeling. It could be in your tummy, in your solar plexus, it could be in your heart, it could be in your hands, it could be in your head, it could be anywhere. Just point to it. There's no right or wrong. Good. Now, I'd like you to imagine this picture that you've got, this internal representation. I want you to take it and have it float out into a space out in front of you that represents this wonderful feeling, and I want you to reach out and touch it. And now take the other hand and trace the edges of that picture so you know exactly how big it is. Now make it half the size, shrink it down, and notice what happens to the feeling in your body. What happens? Do you notice perhaps that the feeling becomes half as intense? Now I'd like you to grab that picture and double the size, triple the size, make it panoramic, and notice how it feels now. Does the feeling feel even bigger and stronger? Good. So I want you to play with it. Make it small and notice what happens when you shrink that picture down. And now I want you to make it really big like a blanket and throw it around yourself and wrap yourself in this picture. What do you feel now? Can you feel the feelings behind you as well now? And it's like you've embraced in a big hug. Now reach back and grab it and make it forward again and make it the size and intensity that you want so that it feels really, really good. Make the colors brighter, make the sounds brighter so that the picture feels really, really good. Good. And now I'd like you to just shrink it down and place it into your heart and leave it there. Excellent. And open your eyes. So I hope that you were able to follow that with me and really feel the feelings change and shift as you played with your internal representation. Because what I want you to understand is that just because you have an internal representation of something, it's not set in concrete, that you can change it if you need to change it. You can make it more positive or make it further away if it's negative. So I had a client come in the other day and she was very stressed. She had a lot of study to do and she was feeling quite stressed about it. And I asked her to close her eyes and to tell me what the picture was in her head of this study. And she said it was like a big tangled mangy ball of string. It was very stressful. So I asked her to gently unwind the string and make it into a really neat, beautiful ball of string. And then just place it on the shelf in a nice, orderly way. And I asked her then how her stress was when she thought about her study, and she couldn't get the feeling of the stress back. It was gone because the stress was tied up in her internal representation of the study that she had to do. The study was external. Yes, it's neutral. It's not good or bad. It just is. And yet when it came within her, through her senses, it became this very stressful internal representation. But the beauty of understanding your internal representation is that you can change it into something better if it's not serving you. So we can do this if there's if people, like, there's a food that they like too much and they wish they didn't like chocolate or ice cream or something, we can make them lose their obsession with it. You can use for different things. If there's for procrastination, we can use this technique and similar techniques to make a person change their internal representation to the work that they have to do so that they actually feel like doing it. Isn't that wonderful? So that is the first thing I wanted you to understand, is your internal representation. So, step one. Now moving into step two, now that you know about your internal representation, I wanted to teach you about another NLP concept called the map is not the territory and it can never be the territory. What does this mean? So, my internal representation of the external world is mine, and it's individual because it's made up of my filters, my personality, my values, beliefs, decisions, and memories. And your map of the external reality, external event, is individual to you because it is made up of your personality, decisions, beliefs, values, and memories. And so your map of the territory being the reality, the external world, the map being your internal representation, your map of the world can never be the same as my map of the world. Does that make sense? Because your internal representation is always individual to you. It's like a fingerprint, yes? And even though you can change it, it's always going to be very unique to you. And my internal representation is always going to be unique to me. Even though I can change it, it's still always going to be different to yours. So that is why the map is not the territory, and it can never be the territory. So it's really good to understand this, because a lot of people experience conflict and they don't understand why. Like, why can't you see things my way, right? Or it's like, there's a family event, like here's a photo of lots of children, right? And they're all having their own personal experience right now. And of course, this little one is having a very different experience, right? Poor little guy. And see these guys, everyone else is quite happy, right? Who knows what they're thinking? But they've all got their own experience in this moment. And so even though it's like, oh, do you remember that family photo that we took? Wasn't that fun? And this little guy might be saying in 10 years' time, are you kidding me? I hated that photo. That was like a horrible, horrible day. I couldn't believe they made me stand in the front to take that photo. Yes? So the territory, the event, it is what it is. But it's your response to the event that is unique to you. And each of these people are having their own unique experience. And so when we think about our conflict, think about conflict with someone where we're just saying, I don't understand why you can't see what I'm seeing, why you're not hearing what I'm saying, why you're not understanding the situation the way I'm understanding it. It is because the map is not the territory, and it can never be the territory. Of course, we can use our skills of building rapport. We can use our skills of understanding the other person's modalities and speaking in their language, so to speak, if you've done the module on the modalities. But the reason there is conflict, the reason there are so many different points of views, like Trump. Some people love Trump. They think he's the best president ever. A lot of people hate Trump. Yeah, they can't wait for him to go. What's the truth? there is a totally, like, there's a totally different reality. Yeah, like his family would see him very different to how, you know, the average American sees him. You know, his staff see him differently to how we see him. You know, every single person has a different experience of who Donald Trump is, and he himself is, you know, a reality of 2 million bits per second, but it's interpreted very differently by every single individual who comes in contact with him, as with all of us. So this is very useful in your personal understanding. So it allows you to accept your thoughts and feelings for what they are, because the beautiful thing is that we can change them, because the reality is out there. What we're seeing isn't necessarily reality, or it's definitely 100% not the complete picture. So it allows us to take a step back and become curious about our thoughts and beliefs, because a belief isn't always true. You know, we may have a belief about something due to, we may have made a decision and come to believe something when we were just a small child. And then when we're an adult, we can expose ourselves to new information to give us a new belief. So beliefs can be changed, and our internal representations can be changed. So we can improve our maps. So if there's anything in your life that is not as you want it, it can be improved. Just because you have an internal representation today that makes you feel stressed or makes you feel anxious over a certain situation, or sad or angry or any negative emotion, just because you have that today, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. Understanding that the map is not the territory and that we never have the full picture allows us to look at different perspectives, to get different points of view. And in doing so, we can improve the quality of our lives, the quality of our experiences, our relationships, our health, and our success. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. The map is not the territory. So often when I'm talking with my students, when I'm teaching NLP and life coaching, we talk about not putting our map onto our clients, or not putting our map onto someone else, because a client may come to us, someone may come to me, and they may be saying something like, you know, like they may want to do something that maybe I personally wouldn't do. And I've been in places where I've been to, you know, other therapists and that, where I felt like their judgment on me, or I felt that they're trying to tell me, oh, well, you know, there's no need to think like that. You can just think in a different way, rather than accepting that what I'm thinking at that moment is true to me, and it's not for them to put their map on me. So my map is mine, and it's up to me through my own exploration to change it. And that person's map is always going to be different. And so we always got to respect other people's maps, yes, and not be so hasty to trample their maps with our own maps. So it's a big topic. We could talk more about it. I hope that's given you a bit of an understanding of it. So now let's move to the final concept I wanted to talk about in the filters of the mind, which is perception is projection. We are a self-fulfilling prophecy. Dum, dum, dum. So again, here's a different picture of the map is not the territory. It's got a little bit more detail in it. and then some things actually a little bit less, but it's okay. It's just, I've given you a different picture. So the map is not the territory. So we've understood that you understand now how there's the world, there's the neutral external environment and events and information comes in through our 5 senses. We filter it through all these filters, which gives us our internal representation. And therefore, what we project out, this is our perception of the external. And so what we perceive is what we project out with our behavior. So our perception is our projection of the world. So if we think, oh, all rich people are nasty, selfish people, then we're just going to project that out in our behavior. And it may even stop us from being wealthy because of this belief. If we have a perception that, all dogs are vicious, then we're going to project that out and, run a mile every time we see a dog, right? So our perception is our projection. We are projecting what we are perceiving at all times. We are projecting into the world what we are perceiving through our internal representations. As Henry Ford has famously said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Because we are a self-fulfilling prophecy. We are going to project, if we think I am not confident, we are going to project that out into the world. If we think I'm always running late, I'm always late, we're going to project that out into the world. It's going to affect our behavior. We're always going to be late. What we focus on is what we will get. Now, in one of the previous lessons, I spoke about our reticular activation system. So this comes back into play again. Our reticular activation system is seeking for the evidence to confirm our thoughts to the exclusion of everything else. Because remember, there's 2 million bits of information coming in per second, but we can only absorb 256 bits of information per second. So the reticular activating system has to filter out the majority of reality to give us the tiny internal representation that we can focus on. So it has to exclude everything else because we just can't absorb everything else. The meaning of anything is what you choose to give it, believe it or not. So sometimes we can make a big meaning of something, like, I'm trying to think of something. I can't think of an example right now. Let me know if you think of an example. But the meaning is what you choose to give. So you are giving every event in your life a meaning. And the beautiful thing is, you can actually change, reframe the events in your life to give them a more positive meaning. Your power lies in your next choice. What will you choose your thoughts to focus on? What will you choose to value? This is the beauty of personal development and why I'm so dedicated to it, because the more we learn about our power to choose, the more we can grow and evolve. And the more we grow and evolve, the happier we become. I've witnessed it time and time again. Okay. So you see how by changing the internal representation, changing the things you say to yourself from I am not confident to I am confident to, oh, I'm hopeless with money to I'm good with money to from I'm always running late to I'm always on time. It then changes what you're going to project out of you. Yes. And your reticular activating system is going to help you by starting to show you more evidence to these new positive beliefs. So I hope all this has made sense. So we've covered 3 main topics. What is your internal representation, how it's made up, how it can be changed, how the map is not the territory, how we can never totally understand the internal representation of someone else, and that we should respect that, and then also try to sharpen our communication skills to better communicate with other people by understanding rapport and our modalities. And that perception is projection. So what we take in the world, we make a perception of it, and we project that out through our behavior. So the more that we can rewrite anything that within us that is not resourceful, and we can project out a more positive behavior and have a more positive outcome in our life. So I would love to hear your thoughts and share your thoughts. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you on the next lesson. Take care. Bye-bye.